It's hard to deal with people sometimes. Let's be honest. They can be really disappointing and they get to us and stir up emotions and anger and discomfort. People talk to us with angering words to hurt us or to make us feel angry. It seems to be a societal normal thing to do. And you know what? Whether you following God or you don't follow God, it's all alike. We live in a society that makes this seem normal, even if it hurts others with words. Yes, I've seen this, and you have seen the other believers do this too. They forget the first and will be the last, and last be first. They have no problem hurting and destroying others to get to the top, get ahead in life, or to just make themselves feel better about themselves. Start that over again. Take two. They forgotten that Jesus taught us and lived otherwise. So they put themselves first before others when it should be the opposite. It's a heart thing concerning how we treat others. And Jesus wants our hearts. If our hearts are blackened or sour, is there really a relationship with God? Is there really the love of Jesus in us? I don't think so. Sure, at church, the relationship with Christ. People act the role. But what about outside the walls of the sanctuary? I was a greeter at a church before, and an usher. And even at a church, there are people with sour looks on their faces. When I greet them, they don't even acknowledge me. They just walk into the sanctuary. And when they leave, they are the ones who rush out of the door to the safety of their cars to go on with their day. 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5. Now the end of the commandment is charity out of a pure heart, and of a good conscience, and of faith unfringed. Do we really live this way? Do we have pure hearts to show others the love of Jesus? How can people proclaim their love for Jesus to others? They have double-minded people who speak out of both sides of their mouth. They want to portray themselves as lovers of God, though they really don't have him in their hearts. You know, I wonder if they even realize this. So it begs the question to whether they have really accepted Jesus into their hearts. Now, I'm not saying that people who believe in God are perfect, but sourness out of their hearts and even out of their mouths should be a very few and far between. You know, I slip up. But when we do speak evil to others, we are quick to be convicted, immediately rectifying ourselves by apologizing, by learning from our mistakes. And you know what? Those who do this are in a wrong place with their hearts and need to really find and be changed by God. Let's take a look at this. Romans chapter 2, verse 5. But after thy hardness and patient heart treasured up unto thyself wrath against the day of the wrath and revelation of the righteousness judgments of God. This is a pretty clear-cut statement. Bad hearts translate into wrath. You know, it makes me wonder why some Christians have such hard hearts Or should we even call them Christians? I don't know. Personally, I believe the heart equates to faith one has. Hard hearts lead to destruction and open the door for Satan to accompany and use them for evil. They profess themselves as Christians in the mind, and yet they spew forth hate and display evil tendencies towards others. This can be seen by such things as arrogance and judgments of others and uncaring attitudes. Do you really see how some people at church show ignorance? Because they own the newest or more expensive car, or they avoid people who are dressed as they are or look a little bit better. Deceived. You see, I see it every Sunday where people go to church, as I observe people while serving as a greater good. It is so sad. Instead of going out of their way to show love and concern for others who look for the downtrodden as they avoid them, they don't. They talk arrogant. And others who are more like themselves about so and so, looking this way and that way. What a shame. Now, don't get me wrong. There are more that do the opposite, but it's the ones who show discontent that are stuck in our minds. As believers in God, we need to have a heart for people regardless of what they look like or how they talk or act. Jesus showed the love and concern for all people who didn't gravitate to wealthy or healthy. They sought after those who were broken and poor. We need to lift up this in how we interact with others with a true and pure heart. Is that too much to ask for? If we don't have a pure heart, our actions numb. If we don't have a pure heart, how do we have a good one? And people can see right through it. More so God knows. Having a pure heart for others is not something to be forced. If we are in Christ, but will a natural extension of ourselves showing the love of Christ in us show forth? Let's take a look at this. 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 7. But the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. God looks at our hearts, not what we have, how nice our hair looks, how big our houses are, or what we wear. No, he looks at the heart. Our hearts show what we truly have inside of us and are standing with God. There is no gray areas for what the heart reflects. There is either pure heart or evil heart. One cannot say they have a good heart most of the time. It is either all the time or none. People can try and to pretend to others on the outside that they have a pure heart, but their true selves will show through eventually and will be on full display for others to see. They will reap what they sow. And if they have a sour heart, their lives will mirror it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but God has a way of revealing the true nature of a person. When we become a child of God through accepting Jesus into our lives, our hearts will change. Ain't no doubt. If hearts don't change, one must question the honesty and what's really going on. We must do the mathematics of this conversation. at the acceptance of Christ with the changed heart, with the change of our hearts. And as we grow in Christ, so too will our hearts for others grow. Our pure hearts will be a motivator for the good works God desires of us to do. Our pure hearts will give an emotion, give us emotion, give them emotion for the well-being of others. Our hearts will drive us to help others. Let's take a look at this. Matthew chapter 5, verse 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Pretty clear statement. Flip this upside down. Those without a pure heart will not see God. Makes sense, doesn't it? Having a pure heart is the key to walking with and being with God. Jesus, the Son of God. Jesus' pure heart, Christ's pure heart, saved us from damnation once we accept Him into our hearts and our lives. This is no wiggle room on this. Matthew chapter 5 makes this clear. If you don't have a pure heart, you won't have God. Luke chapter 10, verse 27 says to love God with all your heart, soul, strength. Since God is the purest of pure, we cannot love Him with anything other than a loving heart. Jesus changes us, charges us to love with our heart. How can we love without a loving heart? It's easy. We can't. We may have empathy or sympathy, but these cannot be confused with a loving heart. And much times these days, many politicians like to use sympathy and empathy with voters to give an appearance that they have loving hearts. I may feel bad and empathize with someone who is facing a hardship, and also endured, but if I don't help them, what kind of heart do I have? Love is a blanket of comfort to those facing hardships. Those who have a loving heart will wrap others in a blanket of love. If our hearts are closed and not filled with love, what good are we to God? No good at all. No works or deeds will be replaced with the need of love in the heart. Think about where your heart is. Where is it? You that are watching me right now, where is the love in your heart? Where you want it to go? Your heart is capable of endless love for God and for others. And if you have a sour or hard heart because of a situation or a hurt, or you just plain simply grumpy, it's time to open your heart to love others. Love grows into forgiveness, gives hope to others, and draws you into Christ. This is our current reality. This is our current reality. Truth unashamed,
unafraid.